Hi, I'm Shawna Percy, a published author, speaker, and advocate, and today I got to be one of the guest speakers at Trillium United Church. Today I was talking about miracles, past and present, and doing the stuff. Do you believe in miracles? Some of the stories that I shared today about some fairly present miracles was that when I was born, there was something wrong with the position I was in my mother's womb, and she hadn't had any ultrasounds, but the doctors took an x-ray the day I was born, and they noticed that I was missing an arm and a leg. So they gave my mother a C-section, and when they pulled me out, lo and behold, I was all intact, all arms, all legs, and my parents would say that that was a miracle. I have a friend named Nadine Frazier who had been hiking in Tanzania, and she was hiking along a pretty steep trail, and the ground slid out from under her feet, and she fell down 13 stories to a rocky ground below. 3 Maasai tribesmen carried her out, but she distinctly remembers there being 4 men who walked her out of that valley. And the tribesmen would tell you that they've never carried out a person alive out of that valley before. But she lived, and it makes me wonder, who was that 4th man? That's the thing about miracles. Miracles are like signs. They point to something bigger, something that kind of makes you stop and go, what or who was behind that? Because it defies the natural or the scientific laws that we tend to live by. In the Bible, one of the greatest miracle stories was Jesus and Jesus's death. Normally death seems to be a bad subject, a sad subject, but actually this is a celebratory subject. When Jesus died and he was up on the cross and he called out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Well, back in that day and age, they didn't have chapters and verses like we do in our Bibles today. So when he called out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" he was actually reading the first line of Psalm 22. And if you read Psalm 22, which was written by David 1,000 years before Jesus was born, it actually describes the crucifixion of the Messiah. So one of the things that's so remarkable about that is when David wrote that, he didn't know what crucifixion was because crucifixion hadn't even been invented then. And so not only did Jesus claim to be the Messiah, but he died and he resurrected exactly as it's written in prophecy. I call that a miracle. And we still have miracles that we're waiting for. The greatest miracle that has yet to happen is the redemption of all creation. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about that. When I look out into the world and I see a lot of pollution and brokenness and violence, and I think, what will it be like when the world is redeemed, when we're living in peace, when the air is clean? What will that be like for my kids to grow up in? I wonder. And I just think it's a beautiful thought to think about. And I had mentioned earlier that we're not just talking about miracles past and present, but we're also talking about doing the stuff. And if you read about any miracle in the Bible, miracles didn't just happen. Somebody laid the groundwork. So when Peter and John met the man outside the temple gate who was paralyzed, who couldn't walk, and they could have just waited for him to be healed. They could have waited to get enough money to give him a handout, but they didn't. They called out to him. They said, "Look at us. Stand up and walk." And they grabbed his hand and his legs firmed up and he got up and he walked. So they might not have done the miracle itself, but they laid the groundwork for the miracle to happen. And when I think about the greatest miracle of all to come that we're still waiting for, I think what's really exciting about that is that we get to lay the groundwork for the redemption of all creation. So we can start today using whatever gifts and talents we have. Maybe it's planting, maybe it's being loving and kind and encouraging to someone else. Maybe it's speaking and advocating, or perhaps it's just praying for somebody silently. Maybe they'll never know, but all of that is laying the groundwork for the greatest miracle to come. So may you Reflect on what gifts God has put into your hands that you can use that's going to lay the groundwork for the greatest miracle to come, the redemption of all creation.